I've got a watch on my wrist. I never knew it could feel like this. Turns out it's not just telling time.
Hello and welcome once again to Time and Time Again. My name's Alan, and on this channel I've basically recently only started to make videos, and the subject I've chosen is something that I'm quite passionate about. I'm very early on in my watch collecting experience, but I want to use it to document it and hopefully help other watch enthusiasts when it comes to making a decision on whether to purchase a watch or whether it might not be quite what they're looking for. In today's video, I'm going to be looking at the Tudor Black Bay 36 and the Tudor Black Bay 58. In my last couple of videos, one of them I was wearing the Tudor Black Bay 58, so I got a couple of comments about that, and in relation to how it wears on a slim wrist. Basically, mine is 6.25 inches, which is just shy of 16 centimeters. So I've mentioned a couple of times on the videos that I have to be a little bit careful with regards to case dimensions. And not just the case diameter. Things like the lug to lug obviously make a massive difference as well, and the thickness of a watch, and the style and how proportionate it looks on a slender wrist, or any wrist for that matter. But just narrowing in on a wrist like mine, because obviously I've got experience of having this wrist, this might help with the decision for someone with a similarly sized wrist on whether to go for the Tudor Black Bay 36 or the Black Bay 58. And I don't even really see them in the exact same category. I mean, the 58 is clearly a diver. The 36, although it does have diver elements, it's more of a kind of Explorer 1 alternative type of watch, and obviously is a smaller watch. But I want to look at a closer look at the two of them side by side, and then if anyone is on the fence about which one to purchase, then hopefully this helps in some way. Just briefly before we start, wrist check. This is my Christopher Ward's C60 Trident Pro 300, and I've recently done an unboxing and a very short-term review video on this watch. It's a really cool watch. If you want to check those videos out, I'll leave links in the description. And just big shout out to everyone who's subscribed so far. It's really early days for this channel, but I've gone to something like 250 subscribers now from 50 in the space of a couple of weeks. So really encouraging, really great feedback, and hopefully I'll learn as I go along and try and get a little bit more professional. Update equipment and things like that, and content is the most important thing. So hopefully it's doing something with regards to helping you make a decision on any given watch. But back to today's video, let's have a look at the Tudor Black Bay 36 versus the Tudor Black Bay 58. Okay, so jumping straight in with a side-by-side comparison, we have a couple of obvious differences. Firstly, the case diameter. This is obviously the 36, so it's a 36mm case diameter on the Black Bay 36, and on the 58 we have a 39mm case diameter. So visually, right away, there's a fair size difference just going on the case. Also, there's a difference on the lug to lug, with the Black Bay 36 having a very compact 44mm, as opposed to the 58, which is 47.6mm. If you look at them side by side, they are obviously almost identical in terms of the slab style case, with the lugs pointing down at the edges, very, very much the same kind of shape. The difference in thickness is the 36 is 10.5 millimeter as opposed to 11.8 on the 58. But the actual cases themselves don't appear to be too much different. The big difference is the dive bezel on the 58 and that domed sapphire crystal, which is sticking up a fair bit. So, like I say, the actual cases aren't too much different in height. It's just the crystals being different, and obviously the dive bezel. Going back to the dials themselves, almost identical in terms of the markers, the shapes of the markers, the snowflake hands, the Tudor logo just below 12, and the obvious couple of differences is the colour. This is a much blacker dial on the 36 than the 58, which is kind of I think it's supposed to be black, but it's obviously a lot lighter. And we have all the gilt markers and the gilt on the bezel here. It's obviously a vintage inspired piece, this one. So this 36 is basically black and white, and we have the silver. This lends itself to being much more adaptable to different kind of outfits, I suppose, with regards to what you might be wearing on any given day. You'd have to think a little bit more about this, or I do anyway. I have to try and do a little bit of colour matching. Really easy on the 36, like I say, with it being black and white, it can go with anything. And that also comes into play with regards to strap changes as well. This is really versatile, will work with any kind of strap, although the one downside about the 36 is the fact that it's 19mm lug width, so that's a little bit limiting in terms of strap choices, whereas the 58 is a standard kind of 20mm lug width. So yeah, lots of options there for this one, although because of the difference in colour, when it comes to colour of straps, you have to be a little bit more mindful with this one, because yeah, it has to kind of match that colouring, whereas this will pretty much go with anything. The negative for both of these, though, is the fact that it's really. I'll just put that one down for a second. The tolerances between the end link and the lugs is just really tight, which is great for fitting of the bracelet. I mean, it's there's no movement whatsoever. This bracelet was clearly made to fit this case, so it's fits like a glove, but that can be a little bit of a negative when it comes to trying to get this bracelet off. It's exactly the same with the 58. I actually bought this Bergeon. What's the number on it now? 7825. £120 this, believe it or not. But having done some research online, there's a couple of reviewers that recommended this as being the best tool for the job, and it certainly is the best tool for the job. But even this isn't fantastic, only because very easy to slip off and mark up the lugs on the underside and the bottom of the end link. I haven't actually changed the strap on this one, so I haven't marked that one up, but I did have a play around with different straps on the 58, and subsequently I don't know whether the camera will pick this up, but there are a few marks on the bottom of the lugs and scratches on the end links as well. Nothing major, and it is obviously underneath the watch, but it does mean that I'm less likely to mess around with strap changes on both of these watches, because Yeah, because it's really quite difficult. I mean, the at the opposite end of the scale, the Christopher Ward that I've got on this has quick release bracelet, and it's just totally different story with that, which I can change straps on that all day long without fear of marking it up. But unfortunately on these two, it's not so easy. Having said that, they both look absolutely fantastic on the bracelet anyway, and the bracelets are really great quality, so they would tend to live on the bracelet 99.9% of the time anyway. Certainly for me, they are just so suited to the bracelet that you wouldn't really want to change straps too often anyway. So there's a little look at the differences in terms of style, in terms of case size, and obviously both from the same brand, so very similar in lots of ways. The other difference to mention is this, the 36 has an ETA movement, although Tudor do give it their own name. It's not actually an in-house movement, whereas you do get that on the 58. It's the MT5402, and in terms of timekeeping, this 58 is running at something like plus 2 seconds per week, so it's actually gaining less than half a second a day, which is pretty amazing really for a mechanical piece. The Tudor 36 isn't bad by any means. It's probably a couple of seconds a day gaining on this, so I'm more than happy with that. So that doesn't really, obviously it's a plus for the 58, but it wouldn't really alter my opinion on which one I would go for out of these two. So if we have a quick look at the bracelets, like I say, both quality. This one has the faux rivets. This feels, I'm trying to think of the word to describe the way that what sets this bracelet apart from a few other watches that I've tried, and it's obviously the look of it, but it has a feel to it. It's like a silky feel, and both of these watches have exactly the same kind of feel to it. They both have the Tudor engraved milled clasp, which is high quality. They both have this push-in lock system with this further lock that pushes over onto it. That's stamped as well. And the Tudor shape on the actual shape of the clasp, which is nice. Both open and close the same. They're a little bit, you have to, what I do is grab the sides to open it like that. Makes it a bit easier. But it's certainly going nowhere once it's closed and it's on the wrist. It's exactly the same thing on this one. Same clasp, same system for closing. Yeah, so they're pretty much the same thing, but this is obviously in a smaller package. The crown sticks out more on the 36. That's clearly visible. That adds to its charm for me. I'm not, I've got no complaints with that. 38-hour power reserve on the ETA, and I think it's 70-hour on the in-house. So that's another difference when you get an in-house movement. You're getting quite a fair bit more power reserve with that. So what I'll do now is I'll put them both on my wrist, and then you can get an idea of how they wear. And just to conclude, really, that they're probably not exactly in the same category anyway. This is clearly a vintage inspired dive watch, whereas this certainly has diver elements. Like I say, the dial is a diver style, but it doesn't have the rotating bezel, and this is probably more of a Rolex Explorer 1 alternative, I guess, as opposed to being in the same category as a diver. But being a small-wristed gentleman or lady, you would have both great options for slightly different styles of watch when it comes to wear on a small wrist, as hopefully you'll see shortly. But yeah, I will close out the video with some footage of the watch on my wrist, and then hopefully if you are deciding between one or the other, you can see the difference on a small wrist. But I feel that obviously the smaller watch is going to wear a little bit better on a small wrist, but this is by no means a big watch, and I feel this can be worn on a small wrist also. Just one more thing to mention as well while I think on the lack of AR coating on both watches can be quite apparent sometimes, depending on the weather and things like that. I mean, even under this lighting in here, you'll see on the 36 I can do that and pretty much lose the complete dial. Obviously this is a really extreme case. You're never really going to be under that kind of lighting, but that's just an example. I have had watches that don't completely go under this light. Similarly with the light's not big enough to actually cover this dial, but you get the same effect on there. But I find that the lack of AR coating is less of a problem on the 58 because there's just more going on with regards to having a dive bezel and the gilt stuff, and there's more visually to notice on this watch. So even if it is looking a bit kind of greyed out, it doesn't bother me too much. Whereas this, if it's looking washed out, there's not an awful lot else going on to draw my eye away from that. So just one thing to mention on both. I have actually, I'm in the process of trying to find out whether it would be possible to change the crystal on this just to get one with AR coating, because I feel like it's the only thing that lets this particular watch down. But whether it's worth it, I think I've relaxed a little bit on it anyway. If I really, really want to, I'll just go into a bit of nice lighting and get a nice optimal view if I feel a need. But yeah, just something to mention about the lack of AR coating. But let me know in the comments what you think, which is suited to a small wrist better. And yeah, I will see you on the next video. Bye for now.